Mike Wilson, thanks for joining the call. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, Sam, thanks for having me. So my name's Mike. I'm a lifelong technologist. You can tell by my accent I'm Irish, born and bred and reared in Dublin. Spent 35 years working in the industry. I've worked and lived all over the world, really, London, Asia, New York, all over. I'm back in Dublin now on my second startup, Zingly. Yeah, father of 3 kids. Married 30 odd years. I sound ancient now, don't I? But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah, 3 boys.
We can see a guitar and a stack of records behind you. This is a lifelong hobby.
Well, that is my number one passion. I sometimes wonder if work just simply legitimizes music so I can buy yet more guitars, because if I go over this way, they'll see I've actually got reams and reams and reams and reams and reams and reams and reams of guitars and synthesizers. So that's my number one passion. Alongside technology is making stuff.
I was talking to someone just now about this. A good model for being a technologist is having a side gig which isn't making you money, but which is adding to your kind of your life and your soul, but also your body experience.
Yeah.
Right. And how you can weave that into your next
Yeah.
thing. So let's talk about a little bit about you and how you moved from the software space into the innovation space. There's this general feeling that innovation doesn't come naturally to technologists. And I'd like to challenge that a little bit, because I think that a large part of what we do is building new stuff and innovating. How did you bridge that gap?
So I'm probably with you. I think we've always occupied the space of building stuff and making things. So my journey in 88 software engineering, so I went in writing code. I didn't know what fintech was, and there wasn't such a thing as fintech in 88, but it was a company called Arbot Winter Partners. So this is the days of Fax 11 730s and PDPs and tape hops and not quite punch card readers, but to some of the younger listeners that won't know what we're talking about here, is like Egyptian hieroglyphics. It was a low-level machine code language we were writing in, but we were developing software. And I think I've always loved coding and software, because even at times at a ZX81, I was trying to turn my Commodore 64 into a synthesizer. So I think coders are naturally trying to make things. And I think that's what's changed today between people who do home computing. They're like, my kids have all got PCs, but they're not trying to make stuff on it, they're playing games on it. So I think we were always the makers and the doers and the thinkers. So in 88 I went off to code, didn't think I'd end up in that career, went out to Asia, building dealing systems and banking back office systems, and then went from there to Wall Street to Bankers Trust, and they had a VC part at Bankers Trust, Sam, that sold the IP the bank had created. So the bank had developed lots of technology, and we were bringing that to market and selling it. So I came from the guy kind of writing the code to a guy working in a VC part of a bank, exploiting and selling that intellectual property to other banks. And from there, I went across to Deutsche Bank at the time of the acquisition of Deutsche Bank, and I ran an emerging technology unit there, focusing on pervasive technology. So we were spotting trends.
Let me just interrupt, Mike, there, because there's a bit that we kind of glossed over, which is this movement from building software to working in an organization which was kind of commercializing software.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Was that a conscious move for you? Because that,
it was. It really was, because I really, 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 really enjoyed the ability to speak to someone about their business and problem solve.
Right.
You know, and I think the great thing about technology, there's loads of pathways to do. Because you guys in Turntable too, you got people who can code, people who can write specs. And the further away you kind of abstract from cutting the code into folk who can actually decipher a business need and work as kind of almost like the Babelfish, the translator, it fascinated me. The ability to speak to, maybe it's that ambidextrous thing again, Sam, the ability to speak the language of technology and the language of business. And I was fascinated by people who could do that. I was quite in awe of them. And that's the space I wanted to be in, because it really became very interesting to me to both understand the problems that we're solving out to. Now, the great thing about technology is so many different pathways you can go in your career, but that's where it took me. It took me into that. And then I went from there, Sam, to Deutsche, where I kind of leaned into that, and suddenly I was making decisions on what technology we should be buying for the bank, where we should be investing in technology, what should we be building. And this is, again, the days when electronic trading was just happening, the internet was just happening. We brought the first BlackBerry to Europe. We did the first desktop video conferencing. All of these kind of pervasive technologies are amazing. And then I did all of that till 2008, and I started my first startup, Sam. My first startup was I packaged up all of that stuff that I'd learned about writing software, selling software, investing in it. And I launched a company that launched companies. So I launched an agency that launched technology companies. Okay. And we were helping them get investor ready, or we're helping them getting revenue ready. And we worked on I worked tons and tons of great startups. We launched a couple of unicorns, tons and tons of work. And that was really great, working with founders and working with people, founding a company or launching a new product. I absolutely loved it. It's the most uncompromising world ever to be in. I just found it extremely addictive. Not simply the hours you put into it, but the end results and the results driven piece. So I did that, and then I saw my second startup, Zingly, and I've kind of gone full circle back now on the tools, coding. We're a software company. We've built a software solution, which we're commercializing.
That itch, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do. Yeah. It was a promise I made to myself that I really wanted to go back and build stuff again and build product again. So yeah.
Mike, have you always got a 5-year plan?
Yeah, I've always got a 10-year plan, and I work in cycles of 10 years. And it's really funny you should ask that. It's funny we haven't met before and you haven't shared these questions, but they're really so spot on. So I worked on a 10-year cycle of 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. When I turned 50, I made myself some promises. I'd start my second startup. When I turned 40, I did my first startup. When I turned 30, we were blessed with starting our first family. So I have these 10-year cycles. So I'm halfway through this cycle that I promised at 50 of having my second startup. And I also made some other promises. I said when I turned 50, I would become teetotal. I said I would take up yoga. I'm a committed vegetarian for about 12 years now. But I'd always said at 50 I would do this. And I had it, not like counting down the clock to it, but I said the ability of not taking control would be the wrong word, but the ability of re-energizing, kind of transformative stuff.
So we haven't spoken, we haven't met, we have been in each other's circles through the Finos and the Big Boost things, and we know a lot of the same people. But I think that when you see someone that has made large changes in their lives, successfully or otherwise, and we'll talk about trying to fail, and we'll talk about the nature of making big changes, those people usually have a long time horizon, like a pole star of the rough direction in which they are heading. Like, it doesn't help me make directions every day, but I am slowly but surely moving in that direction.
I've always had a plan A, that's it's a great question because it made me kind of interrogate my thinking. I do at times though, when you've got a plan A, I've turned to my wife at times when running businesses and stuff. I'm like, sweetheart, I don't have a plan B. And she says, Mike, you got the best plan B in the world. I said, what's that? Find another plan A. But I do love objectives. I do love a plan. I do love a North Star. I do love an overarching. And sometimes the rhythm of life is overtaking to you, Sam, when you've got children or other responsibilities, or, there's a different tempo you're running to and a different set of objectives. But I'm 35 years working in the city in technology this September. And I'm delighted to say of those 35 years, my very first boss, Pat Philpott, I'm still friends with today. And what I've learned on my journey of the 35 years, I've made astonishing friendships. Now there's some folk you avoid too. That happens in careers very, very rarely. I have to say, it's an amazing world we live in with technology and banking. There are lots and lots of very, very excellent good people out there who I'm blessed and privileged to call friends. But it's 35 years, so yeah.
Stretch, man.
It's not bad going. Still no grey hair, baby.
Still no. Well, I've got you beat, man. So there's clear successes there, but also I think when you set big goals, then you one of the things they say about innovation and moving forward is that you should try to fail quickly and fail as much as you can, because that means you're doing something. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I've failed quickly and fail as much as you can. So I do not subscribe to the crashing into breaking things and break things quickly. That's not me at all, and not the projects I was involved with or the businesses I was involved with. There was a tremendous amount of precision and planning, whether it was Deutsche Bank in electronic trading or Bankers Trust or Winter Partners or in Ditto when we were launching tech companies. There was room to make mistakes and to learn from it, but you have to learn pretty quickly. You know, this is kind of
Really glad to hear that, because I think it's such a cliche that people say about moving fast and breaking things like this.
Not at all. I actually don't like that expression whatsoever. Right. I much prefer plan. Now, you can make mistakes, and I'll be very brave with you. When we started Zingli 5 years ago, the first 18 months of work wasn't correct, and we had to start again. I had to start the engineering again, the architecture. It just wasn't right.
Was that a technical thing, or you were in the
technical problem? It was a technical piece that we made wrong.
Right.
And it took a fair few cycles to get in, and 18 months in, I looked at this isn't going to work for us. We need to change this, and we changed it, and we've got it right now. And I'm delighted to say that was 4 years ago, 4.5 years. We're 3 years into the build now. We have not changed one bit of our architecture and our technology. We haven't had to pivot. Everything's working great. The stuff that we were kind of future gazing on AI 3 years ago, and I say to people, I'm not going to sell the gold in the gold, they're going to sell the shovels, and we're selling the shovels. But I am with you, Sam. But this all like breaking fast and moving, no, that stuff you do in your leisure time. In the work time, there has to be room to experiment and make mistakes.
Yeah.
But we know when you commit things to paper, you commit things to code, you commit things to an investor or to a client or to a colleague. That's different.
That seems like, for you, almost an issue of professional pride, of rigor. With us at Turntable, what we've always said is we can't move fast and break things because our things are people.
Right. Like you guys at Turntable, we're very respectful of the people we're working for. Tier 1 banks and fintechs and big tech. The cavalier doesn't come into their language. They're very tolerant. If you do make a mistake, you've got a problem, and they're very patient. And they're encouraging, and they want you to succeed. But they also need to know that they're in good, safe hands.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about how you work with a team and how you build a team and keep a team energized and excited. And I'll just start that, give you a little pointer by saying you are clearly a man of some energy.
I've been really lucky that I've worked for some really fantastic people. I've also quite unlucky. I worked for some not very fantastic people. I've had some experiences in my work life that were, when you're in an investment bank in those pressure environments, things can get blurred very quickly, and some behavior gets blurred in terms of what's acceptable or not, So for me, working for teams, I think it starts with winning the morning, win the day. So everyone I work with, I love. We get on well. They're friends, We don't transcend into best friends. We've got a work relationship that's very important to me. Other types of friendships are different, that I consider close friends and family. But I think the first thing, Sam, you got to do for everything is you have to show up to work. You have to turn up. So first, number one, you're the boss or someone's working for you or with you or you're working with someone, you have to show up. So number one thing, you have to show up. Secondly, you have to be consistent. You can make mistakes and you can change your mind. But I think one of the things I found that people I've worked best for is kind of consistency of tempo and expectation. And then the third thing, you need to be encouraging. Now, for me, the folk I work for, I absolutely love mentoring people. And I've mentored people over my career. And so they're very important to me, So now I'm delighted in my journey of running my own business for 15 years. Folk who I've had the pleasure of working with have all gone either to create their own companies or do great jobs or do great things. And I couldn't be prouder of folk. And we've taken a lot of folks sometimes on their first or second job after graduating and bringing them on their journey. So I don't know if there's much of a trick or magic sauce to it, other than I'd say to everyone, you got to turn up and do the work. You have to be there. You shared collective responsibility. You have to be consistent. You can't flip and flop. You got to treat everyone fairly and equally consistently. And then the third piece I would give the folk is that you're there as a role of a mentor. And in fact, most folk who I see is that I work for them rather than them working for me. I think there's a reciprocal relationship.
Servant leadership.
I don't know if Sam, if anything what I just said chimes or resonates with your own business and Turntable and your success managing people. I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
I'd agree with everything you say. I think I'd boil that down to get the basics right. There's leadership guides and books and videos and all of that. Great, good for you, but I think get the basics right. The only thing I'd add is be a cheerleader. Be a cheerleader, be there for your people, constantly talking. I'm not that interested in being a figurehead. I'm interested in putting other people into the limelight. I think give other people the opportunity to succeed and to grow. And one of the things that I've tried to do in my leadership journey is to put people into positions where they can grow just before they think they're ready for it. because sometimes, quite often, people are very glad of an opportunity to reach a little bit further than.
Yeah. It's kind of stretching someone a little bit, just beyond that. Brilliant, yeah.
A little bit in a kind and generous way, and make sure that you're there to support them and to pick them up and dust them off if they fall down a little bit.
Very rarely, but I have had the time where I've had to let people go. I have hired the wrong people. I've had to fire people. It's never an easy thing to do for anybody. I have made poor decisions before, so I'm very conscious of that too. Thank God it's rare, but it does happen. It can happen. And you can suddenly have someone in an organization that's, when we were at Ditto at one stage, probably between our parents and our group, probably 50, 60 people. So these are large teams of people who are trying to manage day in, day out in a pressured environment. And you can, unfortunately, hire folk that just, are not the right fit. Things change or, I see now in firms a fantastic, much greater emphasis on people, on how people carry themselves, on managers themselves learning how to manage and lead. There's a huge emphasis on that, and I think quite rightly too. I don't know, is kindness is the wrong word because that sounds a bit soft. I think there's a much more recognition that you've said it yourself, in terms of people are your best asset. They are the lifeblood of the company. So yeah.
Okay, so to tie us off, I've got some quick fire questions for you. The first is that it's a gimme. This is an easy one. When do you get your best work done? Are you a morning person, afternoon, evening?
100% morning. I'm up at 5:30 a.m. yoga, run every morning, cold showers. I basically, Sam, I became the kind of man I've always hated.
Yeah, isn't it funny how that happens?
5:30, best time. Win the morning, win the day.
Good on you. Next question, which I think we might have answered already. How do you decompress?
For me, would you believe it's sports, running. I'm a big advocate for running. I like running and yoga, but I run every day. And I become quite addicted to it.
I love the idea of running. Mike, what are you reading right now?
Right, so what I'm reading right now, I'm not reading a particular book. It's funny you should mention reading. What I'm reading at the moment is I'm making a point of reading newspapers every weekend. I buy a stack of newspapers every weekend and I never read them. Ever. And they grow in this stack of newspapers. And I keep buying them and I scan the front page and put them down. So I've made this little thing. I'm doing the crossword and trying to read at least some of the supplements each weekend. So it might sound weird, but I'm trying to finish the newspapers I buy each week as well. I'm trying to finish what I'm trying to do.
You love the idea of reading newspapers.
Yeah. It's mad. It's just, I buy newspapers and I buy this stuff and I really want to read it. Particularly FT Weekend, I think it's brilliantly written.
Yeah.
And the Irish Times is really, really well written. But I never ever finished them. The stack at the end of the sofa is.
Oh, good on you. Now's the time. And then last one, dinner with one person. Who is it?
My wife, 100%. Best friend, soulmate, measure of my dreams. Great fun. 32 years married, proposed after 6 minutes of meeting the woman.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I never tire of it.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mike, how can we keep on top of what you're doing? Where can we find out more about
you? Check out discover.zingly.com. Look me up on LinkedIn. Mike Wilson, Zingly, ZNGLY. Anything catches your eye, ping me. My inbox is always open. And I just wanted to sign off, Sam. I just got to thank everyone I've met, Sam, from Turntable are fantastic. Mike, everybody, you're all great guys. And Vito. And I really love the opportunity of getting to hang out and chat this way. So why don't we make this like an annual thing, or 6 months time, let's get together for a chat again. But this time we got to get our guitars out and we got to have to share some music with each other.
Done. Easy. Mike, thanks very much for being
on
the
You're welcome, rockstar.
It's been a great time. Thanks.
Cheers, bye.